Namaste, Jai Bharat. There are religions in the world. I would classify them into two categories. One, the religions of the West, and then, secondly, religions of Bharat. I'm talking about major religions. There are maybe so many varieties and versions of religion which we may not know really. All may not know. So I make a distinction between religions of the West and religions of Bharat. I name them. In the West we have three religions who belong to just one tradition, normally known or called as Semitic: Judaism, Christianity and Islam. They belong to one stream. In Bharat, we have the Sanatana Dharma, which is often called as the Hindu Dharma, the Jain Dharma, the Buddhist Dharma, and the Sikh Dharma. We have four dharmas. Of course, it's inappropriate to call the Dharma as religion or religion as Dharma. That's a different thing in detail. So, please remember that when I say Dharma, it's a religion of Bharat in your terms, and religion, of course, religion. Now, look at the Semitic traditions from Judaism, Christianity to Islam. They have one tradition, and philosophically and theoretically, philosophically, they practice worshipping one God. It's a kind of Unitarian religion. They believe in one God. Of course, the Catholics make slight distinction here, making a concept of Trinity that is really not that different. Ultimately, they have one concept of God, and more or less they follow the same text. The Torah of the Jews becomes Old Testament in Christianity, and then of course comes to Quran. It's largely a repetition of the same thing, maybe in a different language, but with most names the same, because they accept the prophethood. They call the prophets as Nabi in their language, and then right from Moses to their own prophet, they accept. In between all of them accept. The only difference with them is that they will say this is the end prophet, theirs is the end prophet, final prophet, which of course, this is interesting, nullifies whatever is said of the old, and that of course makes them different. Christians don't do that. Though in the medieval period they were worse than, but then they don't. But when you look at Bharat, we don't have that one Unitarian kind of approach. We believe in one ultimate reality, and we don't believe in heaven, hell. We talk about moksha after death. There is no place called as heaven for man to go. But there's a concept of heaven in the Hindu Dharma, which is about of the deities. Gods, goddesses, when we write in small letters, they call us deities. We don't have a concept of God in the sense of the one ultimate reality. We have principal gods, the three murtis, but they also cease to exist at the end of Pralaya. So many numbers of Pralaya, Vishnu once, so many numbers of Pralaya, Brahma once, and so many numbers of Pralaya, Shiva once, and they get recreated in the next cycle. So the Bharatiyas, the Hindus, have the concept of cyclical concepts of time, where even the three murtis, they get rotated. They cease to exist and then come to existence. So there is no ultimate reality in that sense. We have a concept of ultimate reality, which is not God, which the Upanishads call mostly as Brahman, sometimes of Sakshi, etc., sometimes Paramatman, etc. And this can't be talked about because Shankaracharya himself says that they are beyond quality. They don't have qualities. They don't have qualities in the sense the Brahman is beyond qualities. So once something is beyond qualities, you can't speak about it, because all that we can speak is through understanding the qualities of the given phenomenon in question. So once they have no qualities, in the sense beyond qualities, how can a finite mind with a finite human being with finite mind even think of understanding that? That's logical contradiction. So they are only deities, no such concept of God. And really create a concept though there are talks about creation, and I understand they are meant for common people at mundane level, for them to understand, for them to satisfy themselves. But for those who go beyond, there are other kinds of explanations. It's a very structure of understanding. You understand things. You go to rituals, and you're not satisfied with the rituals. You still want to go more. You go to more in depth. You go into knowledge. Then ultimately you go into Upanishads. So this is the structure of it. Now, what I would like to discuss is that, are they different or one and the same? You can't say that the Sanatana Dharma, that Hindu Dharma, the Jain Dharma, the Buddhist Dharma and the Sikh Dharma are different from one another, but yet they are distinct. They are not different from one another, they don't contradict one another. Rather, they coexist, but they have their distinct character, nature, patterns and everything. They can afford to be independently existing, and they do exist independently. But that is the beauty of the Hindu Dharma, because even within the Hindu Dharma per se, or the Sanatana Dharma per se, we have multiple sampradayas. I call it the sampradayas in Hindi or Sanskrit. Say they are different branches of some one reality. They are distinct. They are autonomous. They are distinct and autonomous, function in their own way. But one autonomy doesn't contradict another autonomy. How many autonomous branches are there within Hindu Dharma? It takes time for you to count. With each guru, you can anticipate an autonomous sampradaya. That's practically to be seen today. You can take the names. ISKCON is one thing. Swaminarayan is another thing. And there are so many gurus, they have their own sampradayas, but then they coexist. See, that is because of the epistemology of the Veda-Upanishadic knowledge tradition, and the epistemology of the Veda-Upanishadic knowledge tradition is one that of coexistence. Coexistence of the multiple and plural. The multiple and plural, because the ancient Bharatiya wisdom understood that nature of nature is multiplicity and plurality. So they coexist, there is no contradiction. So when you talk about Hindu Dharma, one thing, with multiple sampradayas built in within it, all coexisting. And then Jain Dharma, which is practically treated as a separate religion using the Western terminology, but they coexist. And the Buddhists coexist, the Sikhs coexist. They coexist without contradiction, because there can't be a possibility of a contradiction. They have to coexist. That is a knowledge tradition. That is the epistemology of the Veda-Upanishadic knowledge tradition. So they're really not separate theoretically or even practically. Practically, of course, not a lot different, because the people go to one another's places of worship crisscrossing. Buddha is accepted as one of the avatars of Mahavishnu. So legitimately Hindus treat Buddha as an avatar as Vishnu, like Krishna or Rama or any other from the 10. And the Jain Guru is a Guru. Tirthankara is a Guru to us. It's default, by default, Hindus have to accept them as a deity. Same goes to, of course, Gurudom is explicitly present in Sikh Dharma, and Gurus are Gurus. And Guru is akin to a deity. Nobody is ultimate reality. And everyone looks for moksha. The concept is one and the same with minor variations. But listen, the names are different. Moksha in Sanatana Dharma and in Sikh Dharma, and Kaivalya in Jain Dharma and Nirvana in Buddha Dharma. Only thing, they don't become one with the ultimate reality because they don't believe in something like an ultimate reality, which is also perfectly in step with the philosophy of Sanatana Dharma. So all these variations do coexist. So one is not really different from others. So there is no question of contradiction and conflict. There is no question of quarreling one another. No one would tell you this is a right God, this is a real God, all others are false and spurious gods, and that is where a problem starts in human coexistence. Man's civilization depends on accepting the others. Refined human being will have to respect other human being along with his thoughts, along with his beliefs, along with what he is. That's what is refinement, Sanskriti, or in English culture. Otherwise, what's the point of you calling us refined? Culture? You are not cultured, you are not civilized. If you make a distinction between other person and you. We have not taught the world the other is a threat. It is thought to a European thinker. The author is a threat. Now, for us, the author is not a threat, the author is always welcome. We haven't taught the world social contract theories, that man comes in contact with one another to form society. We haven't taught. We understood society as something which is built on a concept of tyaga, which of course can be roughly translated into English as sacrifice. It's not the case that people outside Bharat do not know what sacrifice is or how to sacrifice, but we have recognized sacrifice and we understand that we come to close and where we sacrifice a lot of elements to coexist for your good, others' good fundamentally, and your good secondarily. Upanishadic mantra says Tyaktena Bhunjita. So, these four. See, the world has got 3 religions, Bharat has got 4 dharmas, 1 extra, only Bharat. They coexist perfectly without quarreling because no one tells you that is wrong and this is right. The problem in Semitic tradition is everyone tries to tell you I am right and you are wrong. I am right, of course, is understood to some extent, but when you say you are wrong, the whole thing collapses. You can't coexist. You can't coexist. That makes the world miserable. Learn from Bharati knowledge tradition. That's the only solution and way. So, think about all these things and let's meet again with some other thoughts. Till then, Namaste. Jai Bharat, Jai Sri Ram.